So I'm sitting at work here, and in regards to what Amy was saying about being at work instead of with the kids and anxiety and just in general, we got to remember that working right now is a huge blessing. Not only can you bring money into the house, but we have an opportunity to be around other people that may not be Christians. We're no longer living in a time where we've got this imagined luxury of time that it's not going to run out. It's running out. We don't have the luxury of being shy or sitting on the fence anymore. These kinds of things are going to keep happening, and they're going to get worse. The Bible describes it as a woman in labor. It's going to build and build until we're at a point where really, really bad stuff's going to happen. Now, I think we're going to get through this okay, but we already know this is not how the world ends. It doesn't make it any less scary or difficult to get through. But as I was thinking about this, I thought about how Jesus washed his friends' feet, those that followed him. And he made sure to tell them that if you didn't let me do that, then you can't have any part of me. And what he was doing was showing us how to serve. If somebody as great as him can serve others, then the least we could do is serve others as well. And there's another aspect to that I'll get to in a second, but there's another part of the Bible where he's in the garden right before he's arrested, where he's asking the Father to let the cup pass, but he says, it's not my will be done, but your will be done. And in that moment he's serving again, but he's serving the will of God the Father. So in both cases he's serving for a purpose, and he's serving the Father. As I said, it's a blessing to be at work right now. Right now, Chrissy's and her family that works at the hospital, they're making plans to stay in a camper if cases start showing up. That means she's not going to be around the kids, and I'm not going to be able to take them over to see her, even at a distance, because they're going to freak out. And at least Wyatt's going to want to go over there, and it's going to be really difficult for him. So she's preparing herself to make that sacrifice, and it's not easy. It's not what she wants. Just like for Jesus, it's not really what he wanted, but for the purposes of the plans that God has, he's willing to do it. And he's willing to serve God in that way. And I say that because we all have those preferences. It would be way easier to just be at the house and try to ride through this. But not only do we have that benefit of bringing cash in, and that's important right now, but we get an opportunity to witness to people. And if we can use this opportunity, these hard times, these difficult times, to bolden ourselves, we've got an opportunity to really make a difference. I don't say this to prop me up, but I've gotten to speak to two people that I see on a regular basis that, had this not happened, I may not have ever said anything to, but I offered to pray for them and to take prayer requests, and I wasn't pushy on them, and maybe I should have been more, but I planted seeds where I probably wouldn't have been brave or bold enough to do. And I found that if I watch the news or look at it too much, or sometimes Chrissy gets a little upset at things, then it can stress me out, and I can feel that panic. But what's amazing to me is when I get out here on my own, and it's just me and God, that I have unbelievable joy. I am amazed by how happy and at peace I am. it's important to know what's going on, but it's more important to focus our time on God. So if you're going to work, remember you're serving your family, but there's a greater plan. God's allowing you to be there for a reason. There's a lot of people that aren't getting that opportunity, and some might prefer that, but some are not going to prefer that. So if God's giving us this opportunity, I think it's important that we take it. Even Christians are going to be judged by what they do. I, for one, want to be able to say that I didn't just take this amazing gift that God's given me and I just sat there with it. I want to be able to say I took it and I used it for God's glory and to help other people the way I've been helped. So when you're starting to feel that panic and that anxiety and you prefer to be somewhere else, if you're at the house and you prefer to be at work, just remember you're there and you've got opportunities. I heard something interesting, and just as the guy that was starting to say it, I was right there with him. I was having the same thoughts, that we look at this as a horrible thing, and there's definitely bad things about it. But if all of this time now, as the generation's gone on, especially in this generation, or we're running around and we're focusing so much on other things, on TVs, on our phones, on the things that we want, wouldn't it be interesting if something like this is God's way of just resetting everything? God's way of saying, hey, slow down, remember who I am, think about who I am, now make your decision before the end comes, or start making those decisions. We've got an opportunity to use this time to get back to where we need to be. And there's a lot of good going on out there. There's people talking about putting their Christmas lights back up, and they are, to kind of be this hope in the light in the darkness. It's fantastic. That's really interesting. And there's a lot of good happening, and people taking care of each other. So how do we get those people that are interested in helping others? How do we get them to God if there's no one there to talk to them about God? If I go to work, and I'm not around a lot of people, but if I can go in there around the people that see me and see that I'm not scared, genuinely so, because I'm so on cloud nine because of just what I feel like God is doing for us, I think that says a lot. So if you're going to work, you get to be that example. And it's a heavy responsibility, but it is so far being very rewarding for me. And I don't take as many opportunities as I probably should. So I'm trying. And I think if everybody else tries, I think you'll find a lot of benefit there. But, Chrissy, she's making that sacrifice for us, preparing to, if those cases show up and she's camping somewhere else in some pop-up camper and she's not going to be around the kids, but those patients have got somebody there that's going to pray for them. She's got an opportunity to make a difference and help people get to God. That's incredibly powerful, and especially if she can find that peace that I'm finding. How are they going to explain that behavior and that attitude from her? They're not going to be able to. I think they're going to ask and start talking to her, and when they find out, oh, she's got the creator of all things on her side, then it could potentially be really uplifting for people and life-changing for people. I think we're going to see a lot of people really coming to God. I really feel that while it's terrifying in a way, I told Chrissy towards the beginning of all this that I'm not scared of the virus. I'm scared of how people are going to react. I'm scared of the reactions to it. And I think I hold on to that. I don't think it's going to last as long as people are afraid it's going to last. I think it's going to level out, and however it's going to look. But I think a lot of people are going to make changes, and I think there's going to be a bit of a revival. At least that's what I'm hoping. I think there's an opportunity there for us. But what's really on my heart, and it's been on my heart since maybe a week or two before this really kicked off in a bad way, has been we really need to rely on God. And I think what this is showing us as Christians, that we've been too relying upon the state, the government, other people. We're so heavily involved with the world that anything like this could happen, and we've got this completely helpless feeling, because what are we going to do? And we're waiting around for someone to decide to save us, when what we ought to be doing is relying on God before this kind of stuff happens, and then when it does, we're already in a good place. It used to be that people did their own farming and they grew their own food, and you had a measure of control of stuff, and now we rely on grocery stores and whatnot. And it's not something that everybody's going to be able to change overnight, those kinds of things. But if we can come together and help each other, then we can lessen the impact of this kind of stuff. So I guess what I'm trying to say or whatnot is just remember that when that anxiety hits, just remember none of the things that exist in the world belongs to us. Those kids that we have, they're gifts that God's given us. They've been put in our lives as stewards. There was someone, like a help watching farmland. Like, we're to raise them or to teach them about God, but ultimately it's going to be their decisions, what happens in their lives. But they don't really belong to us in the strictest of senses, just like our houses don't really belong to us. Everything in this world God has given us, including the air in our lungs, everything belongs to Him, and everything's been made by Him, and we're very blessed for these things. But we can't be afraid of possibly losing those things, because they were always God's. And if He knows our feelings, which He does, and He knows our situations. The Bible knew, we see in the Bible where there's going to be an explosion of knowledge, and there has been. We know that there was going to be Israel back in the land of Israel, and that's happened. We know that there are bad times coming before the tribulation, these labor pains. We know it's going to happen. We know the world's going to be able to see it, and the world's going to be affected. And God's known all along how this ends, yet the Bible tells us to be comforted. And that's pretty awesome if you think about it. He knows, but He says, don't fear, be comforted. It's hard to be comforted when everything feels upside down and breaking apart. So is He a liar? Is He delusional? No. He knows what He has in store for us. He knows that things are going to work out the way He intends them to work out. And He knows what's best for us, even if we don't know it. And that goes back to what I was saying, like, this is not good, but there's a lot of good that can come from it. We could dedicate ourselves to reading that Bible more, but we ain't going to have any excuses not to. And that's something that I'm really wanting to work in our life, in my life, and my family's life. Can I every day do something for God? Can I, Sundays, I can get down on that floor and humble myself and seek Him and just pray for a while. And leading up to that, I can listen to music and just worship Him for the hours leading up to that moment, preparing myself to go before Him. Saturdays I can take time to be with my family, try to go outside and play. Monday maybe we can have a Bible study. None of this stuff is stopping. None of this virus or whatnot is stopping us from doing that. Wouldn't it be nice to focus on these positive things rather than negative things? Because there's a lot of invested interest in what's going on, what people are saying on the news and stuff, that to create a little bit of panic. There's a lot of politics going on, even in this situation. But that's the world. A lot of people thrive on that. I think we need to look or be very much different than the world. We need to be cut off from the world in that we look foreign to them. We shouldn't look like them. We shouldn't be acting that way. We should have that positive attitude because we have that peace and joy that God can give us, that we can't give ourselves. Because if you do it yourself, you're going to feel that panic and that anxiety. We got to rely on God. And it's really, I think, the lesson in all this, at least for me. Maybe it's different for everybody else, but for me, this lesson is you can't do it yourself. You have to rely on me. It's my plan. I know what I'm doing. You don't have a clue, so quit trying to manipulate everything the way you want it to go. It's not going to go the way you want it to go. You got to go the way I need it to go. I can see what the end's going to be. So I don't know if this has been good or bad or helpful or not, but that's my response. And I figured it'd be better to just talk it out rather than try to type it out. It's going to take me forever to type something out and think things through, and I'll spend all night doing that. But I'm praying for y'all. I love y'all. Don't stress about this. We're going to get through this. Think about what you can do for God, because now's the time to turn it on. If you've been sitting on that fence, if you've been letting your shyness get in the way, just like I've been doing that, and now's the time to be bold. I think we're going to see a lot of things in the coming years, and I think it's only going to get crazier. We need to be ready. I, for one, when I'm out here, every time I go outside, I can't help but look up at the sky. I'm just waiting. And it's very comforting to be told by God, I know your situation, but be comforted. And I think it's in Thessalonians, maybe towards the end of the chapter, where it says something along the lines of, I'll paraphrase, it's not appointed unto us wrath, but salvation through Jesus Christ. And that is amazing. He's not seeking to punish us. Now, He'll chastise us, and we need to pay attention to that. And this could be a little chastising. But what are we going to do about it if it is? We got to rely on God. We got to stop worrying about every little thing. We got to stop worrying about the big things. And use the opportunities to serve Him. He's given us an amazing gift in salvation and through His Son. And we are to be servants. And we are to help people. And to be there for each other and be a family. And Jesus said, all those that do the will of my Father are my brothers and sisters. And we're family. And our Father is the Creator, the Almighty. And I think our focus should be on Him so that comes out in us and how we act. The example to be to others, just as Jesus was an example to His disciples when He washed their feet. Serving God, serving others. Those people saw a difference in Him. And we're called to be a difference in other people's eyes. Be something different. So anyway, I think that's all I got. Have a good day, guys.